committee. And then they joined the resistance with the Khmer Rouge, and they were given a certain position at different institutions in communes and in villages. Those who were soldiers were sent to be part of soldiers, and those who were specialized in medicine were sent to be part of the medics, and others were sent to political field. Sun Mala and Pen was among the group. Pen was specialized in the medicine, so he was sent to be part of the medics, and Mala was sent to be district committee. Chen was specialized in artillery, so he was sent to be part of the soldiers, and in 1973 they disappeared.
And what about people who had relatives living in Vietnam? Did anything happen to those people?
Those who had their relatives living in Vietnam, some of them actually returned from Vietnam after they had fled. And through my recollection, there were about 60 of them who returned. And nothing happened to them. However, certain individuals who fled and were arrested, they would be killed.
Let me ask you then about what you said in your OCIJ interview on this subject. This is E3 5178 at Khmer 00197-857, English 00274-095 through 96, French 00485-181. This is what you testified to the investigators. Quote, later in 1977, the victims were accused of being Vietnamese supporters. The Khmer Rouge cadres were also executed. As most of them were educated in Vietnam, they were accused of being CIA or KGB agents. Therefore, many people died in this province. The relatives or associates of such cadres were also executed. A person whose relatives were living in Vietnam would also be killed if this was known to Angkar. Kha Nhiet and Khao Sema were the districts in which most victims were killed. Most of the killings occurred in July 1977, and the victims were accused of being Vietnamese network. End of quote. You told OCIJ that a person whose relatives were living in Vietnam would be killed if this was known to Angkar. How did you know that? And can you identify any people who were killed because of that?
A person who was killed because his relatives lived in Vietnam was part of the network of Ta Bun Niet, and also a network of the Junt was also killed. However, they were not killed as a group only those who links to a particular network will be arrested and killed. And later on, if other individuals were discovered that they were part of another network, they would be arrested individually and killed. They were not arrested as a group, but an individual arrest was made.
Thank you. I also want to ask you about the issue of cadres or people accused of having contacts or communications with the Vietnamese. During the regime, were people who had engaged in contacts or communications with the Vietnamese accused of being enemies?
If they were suspected of having relationships with Vietnam, it will result in their arrest. Namely, Pinet and Loi, they were suspected, and for that reason they were arrested. They actually shook hands with Vietnamese and did not attack them.
And you talked about this in your interviews. Can you explain why it was that these two men didn't attack the Vietnamese?
When they went to meet the Vietnamese along the border, they shook hands with them and refused to attack them. They actually requested the Vietnamese to remove their position from the Cambodian territory. Hom and Lang didn't agree with that. For that reason, they were arrested along with those who linked to their networks.
Let me ask you a little bit about the relationship with Vietnam. You've testified today that Mondulkiri was liberated in 1970. Can you describe for the court how Mondulkiri province was liberated in 1970, and specifically whether the North Vietnamese Army helped or worked with the Khmer Rouge to liberate Mondulkiri and other provinces in the northeast?
In 1977, says the witness, after Sihanouk went to China, he made an appeal through Vietnam. And since I was living along the border, I was living with Vietnamese, and they told us that the king agreed to accept the support from the Vietnamese to attack. And for that reason, Mondulkiri was liberated in June.
រំដោះហ្នឹងគឺកម្លាំង
And in fact, it was the North Vietnamese troops who liberated that part, and it was not us, the Khmer Rouge, who liberated the area. However, after they liberated that part of the country, they had us to administer the liberated zone. We then entered the liberated area. We confiscated the firearms from the soldiers, And some of the people who were in the positions were arrested or sent for tampering, while others were allowed to stay and live there with the ordinary people, and that happened in 1970.
And how long did Vietnamese troops or cadres remain in Mondulkiri after 1970? How long were there still Vietnamese soldiers in your province?
To my knowledge, Vietnamese had relationships with the Khmer troops in 1966, and by 1970 there were plenty of forces of Vietnamese troops scattered in Ratnakiri and Mondulkiri provinces. The Khmer Rouge actually could seek support from the Vietnamese troops in order to attack the government at the time.
I wanted to ask you about something you said in your OCAJ interview. This is at E3 5178, Khmer 00197-860, English 00274-099, French 00485-184. You stated here, you described how you were working for your Uncle Kassi since 1971, and then you state from 1974 to 1975, you were in charge of receiving aid from Vietnam. Can you tell us what type of aid was being provided by Vietnam during those years?
In late 1974 or early 1975, the Vietnamese had contacted with the local authority in Cai Sema district, and they actually provided some aids through the Khmer Rouge. At that time, I was a bodyguard who accompanied Lang and Home, who was secretary of the province, and they actually liaised with the Vietnamese provincial committee by the name of Tu, Mai, and Duc. And the Vietnamese side promised to provide some fuel, medicines, and some rice seeds, as well as ammunitions to the Khmer Rouge side. And I actually was there, and I actually carried those aids onto the truck. I cannot tell you the exact amount, however, there were 60 trucks loaded with aids from the Vietnamese side.
And do I understand correctly, this is something that occurred as a result of liaisons or contacts between the sector secretary, Lang, and authorities in Vietnam. Is that correct?
Witness, please observe the microphone. Witness. It was the liaison at the provincial secretary level, not at the district level.
And what was done with the aid that the sector received from Vietnam? What was done with the fuel, the rice, and the other supplies?
To my knowledge, during the negotiation, the Vietnamese agreed to transport the aid to Koh Nhai. However, Hom refused to agree to that, and he would ask his subordinates to actually transport them to Koh Nhai. However, Vietnamese agreed to transport them to Kai Pachanda from Kai Sekma. But it was us who actually carried those aids and materials onto the trucks. And then the home would transport those aids from Pachanda to Koh Nhai. As for the rice seeds, it was used for transplantation in the rice field, and the medicinal supplies were sent to the sector hospital, while the ammunitions were sent to the military headquarters. And there were also uniforms supplied by the Vietnamese, and those uniforms were given to soldiers.
With regards to the fuel you received, did you use the fuel received from Vietnam to help build the O Bun Crom Dam?
As for the fuel was actually used to build a few dams, that is O Bun Kram, O Bun Le, and O Ye. There was a pretty large amount of fuel, although it was not sufficient for all the construction sites purposes.
And the O Bun Crom Dam that you used this fuel to help build, was this the same dam site that Khieu Samphan visited in 1974?
There was the only dam in the area.
I want to ask you about one more thing that you say. Sorry. Did you have something you wanted to add?
បាទអត់
No.
I wanted to ask about another statement in your OCIJ interview, E3-5178. This is at Khmer 00197-858, English 00274-097, French 00485-182. And you stated to OCIJ, quote, "It was KR, the Khmer Rouge, who fought Vietnam, and Vietnam did not fight us," end of quote. And in your DC Cam interview, E3-5180, Khmer 00198-718, English 00274-112, French 00403-440, you said something similar. I quote, "Question, did the Vietnamese attack us, or did we attack the Vietnamese?" Answer, "We attacked the Vietnamese and not the other way round," end of quote. Can you explain why it is that you said that the Khmer Rouge attacked Vietnam and not the other way around?
Witness, please hold on, and Council Copper, you have the floor.
Just a request for clarification because I heard completely different numbers. Are you referring to the DC Chem statement or another WRI?
Two. There's the first statement was from OCIJ interview E3 5178. The second was from DC Cam interview 5180. Pardon me. Yes, DC Cam interview 5180.
It's 51.
The question, Mr. Witness, why did you say that it was the Khmer Rouge who attacked Vietnam and not the other way around?
At that time, Vietnamese troops didn't fully retreat from Cambodian territory, and the Khmer Rouge troops wanted the Vietnamese troops to actually fully retreat from Cambodian territories, and as a result, they attacked the Vietnamese troops on two occasions. On the first occasion, Vietnamese lost about 30 soldiers. On the second occasion, about 60 soldiers were killed, although the Vietnamese did not fight back. Later on, they used a loudspeaker to communicate to one another, and the Vietnamese side asked why they were attacked, because we were friends, as in the past we used to share a cigarette. And the soldier side, the Khmer Rouge side said they didn't fight the communist Vietnamese, but they actually fought the Vietnamese invaders who encroached on the Cambodian territory, and many more issues actually arose from this problem.
And a little earlier you mentioned about two soldiers who had been arrested for not engaging the Vietnamese. I believe their names P. Nit and Louis, if I remember right. Were these two soldiers people who had previously worked together with the Vietnamese during the war from 1970 to 75? Did they know these Vietnamese troops that they did not want to engage?
Yes, they used to fought together, to share their base together. So later on, when they confronted one another, they refused to engage. And then they were reported to the upper echelon, and not only these two were arrested, all their soldiers under their commands were also arrested.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I'm almost done with my questions. There's one last thing I was hoping you might be able to help us with. Mr. President, with your leave, I'd like to provide to the witness, this is the supplementary information form of a civil party, document E3/6760A. This is a person who's potentially going to testify in these proceedings. And he identifies a security office and describes it and provides a location, and I'd like the witness to see this location to see if he can help us understand where the security office was. So with your leave, may I provide E3/6760A to the witness?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Witness, don't say the name of this person. Please don't say the name of the individual who's on this document. But you see a highlighted reference there. This civil party was a Division 920 soldier, and he describes being detained at a special security office near the foot of a mountain, near a tributary of the stream O Le Pu, O Le Po, in Konye district. This is not a person from Mondulkiri, and so my question to you is, do you know which security office is being referred to here? We don't have very many detailed maps of Konye district. Do you know where the O Le Pu stream is, and do you know what security office was located at a foot of a mountain near that stream?
There was no Olopo district or Olopo in Konye district.
So you're not aware of any stream or river by that name in Konye district, is that correct?
Witness. In Konye district, there were Oronyo, Onye, and Oronye, but there was no Olopo.
Was there a stream nearby either the K11 office or the Phnom Krau security office? Did either of those offices have a stream nearby?
In Phnom Krau, there was only one dam there. The name was known as Ta Sot. It was next to Phnom Krau, and there was no stream nearby. And the prison was located nearby that area.
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for answering my questions. We have no further questions, Mr. President.
President, thank you. I'd like to hand the floor now to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties. Lawyer for civil parties. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. My name is T. Sina. I'm a lawyer for civil parties, and I have a few questions to put to you. There is one question that I'd like to put to you in relation to Kasi, and that is in reference to document E3/5178 at the Khmer 00197863 and English 00274102 and French 00485187. In your statement on that page, you said 3 or 4 months before the arrest of Svai, Kasi was removed from his position. Can you tell the court who actually had the authority to remove Kasi from his position? Answer: yes, I can do that. It was the sector secretary who had the overall authority at the time and who actually removed him from his position.
Lawyer, thank you. So it means that the removal and appointment of an individual at the district level was conducted and decided by the sector. Is this true? Answer: the sector committee secretary of the sector or secretary of the province had the authority to remove and to appoint an individual in the district. Question: did the sector committee seek approval from upper level, or was it was the district decision to deal with the matter by themselves? Answer: I am not quite sure on this issue. I did not know about the contact or relation with the upper echelon. Lawyer, thank you. I want to seek a clarification from you in relation to Tropang Pring, the execution side. You told the court about Tropang Pring security office. Did this security office have another name besides that Tropang Pring? Answer: there was no other name. On the road from Kanyai to Croches, there was a location or a lake, and that lake was named and known as Tropang Pring. Lawyer, I am now asking you about the relation or the work at K15. You made mention about K15, 16, and 17. What was the relation of the 3 offices with the sector, and how did those offices communicate with the sector? Answer: frankly speaking, those offices were under the control and management of the sector of province. K16, K11, K37 and Royo was K37, and that was the work site for agricultural production. These offices were within the supervision of the province. At the time, there was no telephone communication system. Usually the communication happened through letter. Letters were sent by a messenger who were on animals, for example, on horse. Lawyer, thank you. In relation to those offices, did all those offices communicate with other levels in relation to their works conducted? Answer: yes, they all had relation to one another, and they had a communication with one another. Lawyer: in relation to tasks and events happening in the whole Sector 105, for instance, there was an event you described in the morning in relation to one group of individuals who had a connection to Tasi. 18 of them fled to Vietnam. Was this event known to all officers, or the information was revealed to only the office which was in charge of that matter? Answer: when there was any event, when there was an event, the information was communicated to particular location to be cautious or to issue any measures or actions. Lawyer, thank you. I am now asking you about meetings. Did you ever attend any meetings, and how many times did you attend those meetings when you worked in Sector 105? Rather, Sector 15, said a lawyer. Answer: I never attended meetings. However, I was there as a messenger, and I served meal, for example, water or rice, to those participants. Question: did you ever attend any rallies? Answer: yes. I attended a rally at Old Bun Krom Dam site. That rally was held to celebrate the Khmer New Year as well, and the content of the rally was about the war with Vietnam. Lawyer, thank you. Concerning that rally, how many times did that rally take place? In answer: in fact, it was a small rally, and small rallies occurred very frequently about the arrest of people. And regarding big rallies, villagers from different villages and people from different units and offices were invited to those big rallies. And as for small rallies, they happened very often in relation to the arrest of people. Lawyer, concerning small rallies or small meetings, you stated that small meetings were held very frequently. During the small meetings, who attended those small meetings and who presided over those small meetings, in particular about the arrests of people? Answer. Usually, chief of respective units presided over small meetings and announced about the arrest of individuals. Lawyer, thank you. It is my last question, perhaps. You stated that you arrived at a location where you were herding cows, said lawyer, and at the time you went to fetch water to drink. You went to an office and you noticed there was a vehicle parking at that location, and a group of people was on that vehicle or truck. At the time, did you look at those people, and were there women and children among them? Answer. The vehicle was completely covered with tent, and there were guards guarding that vehicle, and the container of the water was close to the vehicle, and I went to fetch the water at that location. There was an individual who used to work with me at Kausema, asked me to give some water, and I said I apologize that I could not give him water. He asked me if Kasi was alive. After I left him, I held his hand. When I was about to leave him, I held his hand, and then I walked away. I did not dare to give him some water, and I was in a hurry to get water to avoid any danger happening to me. Lawyer, beside that truck or vehicle, you used to walk in and out of your work site. Did you happen to see the transports of people on vehicles frequently? Answer. It did not happen very frequently, and I did not I did not walk to that location very often. Lawyer, I have another question in relation to K11. You stated that K11 was the temporary detention office, and that office was used to house minor offenders. After offenders were detained at that K11, were torture inflicted on offenders, and it was interrogation conducted? Answer. I am not quite sure on this particular issue. I used to meet with those who were detained in the office, and after they were released, they often discussed about their detention with me, but I'm not quite sure about this particular issue as you raised, President. Thank you. It is now time for break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please assist the witness during the break time, and please invite him together with his duty counsel into the witness stand in the courtroom at 3 p.m. The court is now in recess.